This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hi, I'm Romulo Lollato, Extension Wheat Specialist with Kansas State University, and we're here at the Wheat U today, and we're talking with several wheat and sorghum growers, and we're covering different topics, right? From what we saw last season and what we learned, all the way to some update on some of the research projects that we have going on around the state. So what have we seen this last year, and what did we learn? What do we need to be looking forward going into this next growing season now? So last year was very challenging for producers in central Kansas. We started the growing season with up to 20 inches during October and November of rainfall, and that really was very, very challenging to get the crop established, getting the crop in the ground. So what we saw is two very, very different crops. An early planted crop that had a pretty good yield potential, very good growing conditions, and a late planted crop that had a much limited fall growth, and we were thinking at one point in time a much limited yield potential as well. On top of that, producers in central Kansas also had a lot of rainfall during the spring, so there are parts of south central Kansas that had up to 60 inches of rainfall during the growing season. That's an excessive amount of rainfall that resulted in a lot of waterlogged fields, which in its turn turned out to cause a lot of yield variability in the fields in central Kansas. So it was not uncommon for producers to be harvesting a field here yielding 60 bushels per acre. They go down the road a mile or two, and now their yield levels are down into the 20s because of waterlogging and premature death. Central Kansas also had quite a bit of scab, and the concern of that was, of course, yield losses due to the scab or Fusarium head blight. But not only that, going into the next season, we need to remember that if we had scab last season, our seed quality is likely going to be compromised. So very important not to just go out of the bin and put the seed there and get the seed out of the bin and plant. Make sure that you do a seed quality or a germination testing on that seed, because talking to different seed producers around the state, many of them are actually discarding as much as 20, 30, or even 40% of the seed that was produced last season because of damaged kernels, right? So keep that in mind. Kernels that are scabby, they're not going to germinate. And if you're coming from a field or saving seed from those conditions, make sure that you do a good seed cleaning through a gravity table, air screening and gravity table, and perhaps consider a fungicide seed treatment as well. Now, we had a very different crop in western Kansas. Western Kansas, actually, we had near perfect growing conditions. Many of the growers there were actually harvesting 60, 70, or 100 plus bushels per acre this last season. The fields got established for the most part in a timely way, with perhaps the exception of those planted after corn. But the yield potential was actually very good. We had a cool, nice grain filling period. Many fields weren't harvested until mid to late July. So really, we have very cool temperatures during the grain fill and available moisture as well. So really, when we look at the variety trial data from the western part of the state, varieties that had pretty good straw strength actually did quite well. And varieties that had a good disease package as well, with especially stripe rust, actually did quite well as well. So those are some of the recommendations. Now thinking ahead, remember that we had quite a bit of hail as well in parts of the state, and that's going to become a volunteer crop. We have had some rainfalls through the state now during this last week or couple weeks. So make sure and control the volunteer wheat so it's not a green breed for the wheat curl mite, which can transmit the wheat streak mosaic. We had an epidemic of that a couple years back, and we don't want that to repeat.